Welcome back to the channel today. We are diving deep into the history and value of the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny. This is one of the most popular coins collected in the United States, and it is often one of the first wheat pennies new collectors come across. But not all 1941 pennies are created equal. Some are only worth a few cents, while others can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on their condition and unique characteristics. First, let us look at the history behind the coin. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was designed by Victor David Brenner, and it replaced the Indian head cent. The design featured Lincoln on the front and two wheat stalks on the back, which is why collectors often call these the wheat pennies. The wheat reverse was used from 1909 until 1958 before being replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Now, moving to the year 1941, specifically America was on the brink of entering World War II. Coin production was still using regular copper and zinc composition. It was not until 1943 that the United States Mint struck steel pennies to save copper for the war effort. So the 1941 penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. In terms of mintage, this was a year of very large production. More than 1 billion Lincoln cents were struck across the three mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint made over 887 million pennies. The Denver Mint produced about 128 million, and the San Francisco Mint produced around 92 million coins. So while these numbers are huge, it also means that most 1941 pennies are still fairly common today, but condition is everything. When it comes to value, a 1941 penny in worn circulated condition is usually only worth about 5 to 15 cents. That is what most people find in their collections or in old jars. However, if you have a coin in uncirculated condition, meaning it has never been used and still has its mint luster, the value can jump much higher. A mint state 1941 penny graded MS65 by a professional service can sell anywhere from $10 to $25 depending on the mint mark and demand. Now here is where it gets interesting. The 1941 penny is also known for several rare air varieties that can make them worth a lot of money. One of the most famous is the double die obverse. This is where the lettering and numbers on the front of the coin appear doubled because of a die issue during minting. If you have a strong double die, especially on the word Liberty or In God We Trust, collectors can pay hundreds of dollars or more for it. There are also repunched mint mark errors known as RPMs found on 1941 Denver and San Francisco pennies. This happens when the mint mark was punched into the die more than once, slightly off position. These small varieties can add anywhere from $5 to over $100, depending on how strong the doubling appears. Another factor that affects value is the grade scale used by collectors. Coins are graded from poor, which is basically unrecognizable, up to mint state, and even proof-like conditions. A coin graded MS67, which is a very high grade for a 1941 penny, can easily sell for several $100s in auction, and a handful of coins in MS68 have sold for over $1,000. Let us also mention proof coins. In 1941, the mint struck special proof cents in very limited numbers. For collectors, only about 21,000 were made. These proof pennies were struck with specially polished dies and planchets, giving them a mirror-like finish. Today, a 1941 proof Lincoln cent in nice condition can be worth anywhere from $75 to several $100s, depending on grade. And I appeal now to current market values. In today's coin collecting market, most 1941 pennies in average circulated condition are still only worth around 10 cents. Uncirculated examples with strong luster and no major marks will often sell between $5 and $25. Rare air varieties like double dies or repunched mint marks can bring anywhere from $50 up to $300 or more, and the very finest graded mint state examples at MS67 and MS68 can sell for $500 to well over $1,000 when offered at major auctions. So, to sum it all up, the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny is common in lower grades, but there are key conditions and varieties that can make it worth serious money. It is always important to check your coins carefully, especially around the date and lettering, to spot possible errors. If you happen to have a high-grade example or a rare double die, You could be holding a small treasure from your pocket change. That wraps up our deep dive on the 1941 Lincoln Wheat Penny. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more coin value videos and guides, and drop a comment below if you have a 1941 penny in your collection. The 1944 Lincoln penny is one of the most fascinating coins in American history, and for good reason. It has a story that connects World War II, the U.S. Mint, and collectors today who are willing to pay thousands of dollars for certain varieties. When we talk about the Lincoln cent, we are talking about one of the most widely recognized coins in the world. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and it replaced the Indian head cent it was. Designed by Victor David Brenner, and from the very beginning it became a favorite among collectors, but the 1944 penny stands out in a very special way. To understand why the 1944 penny is so interesting, we have to look back at 1943. In 1943, the United States was in the middle of World War II, and copper was desperately needed for the war effort, especially for making shell casings, and other military equipment. So the Mint decided to strike pennies out of zinc-coated steel instead of copper. These 1943 steel cents were shiny like dimes when they were first issued, but they rusted easily, and they confused the public. People complained, banks complained, and the Mint quickly realized that this experiment was not popular. So in 1944, the U.S. Mint went back to making pennies out of copper. However, the copper used in 1944 was not the same as before. It actually came from recycled shell casings left over from the war. So every 1944 penny that you see was made from a piece of recycled wartime brass. Most 1944 pennies are common because the Mint produced more than 1 billion of them across all three mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. So the majority of 1944 pennies you come across will only be worth a few cents in circulated condition. But here is where the story gets exciting. There are rare errors and varieties from 1944 that are worth serious money. One of the most famous is the 1944 steel cent, because even though the Mint had switched back to copper, a small number of steel planchets left over from 1943 got stuck in the machinery and were struck with the 1944 date. The result was the 1944 steel penny, one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. Fewer than 30 are known from Philadelphia, and even fewer from Denver and San Francisco. If you find one of these, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. In fact, one sold at auction for more than $100,000. Another important variety is the 1944 D over S repunched mint mark. In this case, a Denver mint mark D was punched over a San Francisco mint mark S. This kind of error happened because mint marks at the time were punched into the die by hand, so mistakes were possible. Collectors love this type of variety, and depending on the condition, it can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. There are also double die errors and off-center strikes from 1944 that carry extra value. If you find one with a strong doubling on the date or lettering, it can be worth far more than face value. Coin collectors pay big premiums for unusual mistakes, especially from wartime years. Now, let's talk about the average 1944 penny. If you have a circulated example, it is usually worth about 5 to 10 cents. If it is in mint state condition with beautiful red luster, it can sell for $10 to $50. Higher grade coins certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC can bring even more. For example, an MS67 red 1944 penny is sold for over $500 in auctions. Condition is everything in the coin market. The rarest and most valuable examples remain the 1944 steel cents and the high-grade copper cents from each mint mark. The Philadelphia Mint coins have no mint mark. The Denver Mint coins show a small D below the date, and the San Francisco coins have an S. For example, a 1944 S penny in mint state red condition can be worth over $200, while a 1944 D penny in high grade can reach similar values. So what should you do if you have a 1944 penny? The first step is to check if it is copper or steel. The copper ones will not stick to a magnet, but the steel cents will. A simple magnet test can quickly tell you if you have one of the rarest coins in U.S. history. After that, look closely for mint marks and any unusual features. If you think you have a rare variety, it is worth sending it to a professional grading service to authenticate and certify the coin. That way you know exactly what you have, and collectors will pay top dollar for it. In today's market, common 1944 pennies are easy to find in pocket change or in bulk coin lots, but the rare errors are the ones that make headlines. The story of these coins is a reminder that even the smallest piece of change can hold big history and big value. So the next time you come across a 1944 penny, don't just spend and take a closer look, because it could be worth a lot of money. Today, we are diving deep into the history, the details, and the current value of one of the most fascinating coins from mid-20th century America. The 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny. This coin is part of the long-running Lincoln Cent series, which first began in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, who was born in 1809 and became the 16th president of the United States. The Lincoln Cent was the very first circulating United States coin to feature the portrait of an actual person, and it has remained in production ever since, with only design changes over time. A 1952 penny falls under what collectors call the Wheat Penny era, which ran from 1909 through 1958. The design on the front or obverse of the coin features the classic bust of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, with the words "In God We Trust" above his head, the word "Liberty" to the left, and the date 1952. Along with the mint mark, if there is one on the right side on the back or reverse of the coin, you find two wheat stalks on each side surrounding the denomination 1 cent, and the words United States of America. At the top you see the motto E Pluribus Unum, which means out of many one. This wheat design was used until 1958, when the reverse changed to the Lincoln Memorial design. Now, let us talk about the production. In 1952, these pennies were struck at 3 different locations. The Philadelphia Mint produced coins with no mint mark. The Denver Mint produced coins with the D Mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint produced coins with the S Mint mark. In total, hundreds of millions of 1952 wheat pennies were made, so it is not the rarest date in the series. But condition, rarity, and errors make certain examples extremely valuable. Today, Philadelphia struck over 186 million coins, Denver struck more than 446 million, and San Francisco struck almost 138 million. Together, this made nearly 750 million coins in circulation for that year. Now, let us discuss values. The truth is that most 1952 pennies you find in pocket change today are only worth a few cents each, because of their high mintage and the fact that they are made of copper, not silver or gold. However, the condition of the coin makes an enormous difference. Coins that are worn and circulated are typically worth from 3 to 20 cents each. A nice bright red, uncirculated coin can easily be worth a few dollars if you happen to find a 1952 penny that has been graded mint state 65 or higher by a professional grading service. The value can climb dramatically. Red examples, meaning the copper surface has maintained its original bright red luster, are the most sought after. Collectors pay premiums for coins that still look as if they just came from the mint. For example, a 1952 Philadelphia Cent in brilliant red mint state 67 condition has sold at auction for over $2,000. The Denver Mint variety in MS 67 red has also sold for close to $2,000. In the San Francisco Mint mark penny in MS 67 red has crossed the $3,000 mark at major auctions now. Aside from grade, there are error coins which collectors love. For the 1952 penny, you may find repunched mint marks, double dies, or off-center strikes. A repunched mint mark means the letter D or S was stamped more than once, slightly shifted, creating a doubled effect. These errors can bring in anywhere from $10 to several hundred, depending on the clarity and demand. A double die where parts of the design appear doubled because of a hubbing error can also be valuable. Some of these have sold in the hundreds of dollars. It is important to note that the intrinsic value of the coin also matters. These pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Each weighs about 3.1 grams. Because of copper content, even a completely worn-out 1952 penny has a minimum melt value tied to copper prices, which is more than 1 cent, but collectors usually value them much higher. So, if you find a 1952 penny and change in an old jar or from a family collection, always check the mint mark, always look closely at the condition, and if it seems special or very well preserved, it might be worth grading or selling at auction. To summarize, common circulated 1952 pennies are worth a few cents. Uncirculated examples with nice luster can sell for several dollars. High-grade red examples certified by grading services can be worth thousands. Error coins at another level of rarity and value, making this year exciting for both new and experienced collectors. A 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny is more than just a coin. It is a piece of American history from the post-World War II era, a time of economic growth and cultural change in the United States. Each penny is a small artifact that reminds us of Abraham Lincoln, his legacy, and the artistry of early 20th century coin design. So next time you come across a wheat penny dated 1952, do not just toss it aside, take a close look. You may be holding a coin worth a lot more than just 1 cent. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more coin collecting videos, and let us know in the comments what treasures you have found in your own pocket change or collections. Today, we are diving into one of the most legendary and talked about coins in all of United States numismatics, the 1955 Lincoln penny. This coin is not only famous for its historical background, but also for its striking variety and incredible value that continues to excite collectors. Even today, when we talk about the 1955 Lincoln cent, we're going back to the middle of the 1950s, a time when America was booming with post-war growth, and the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 40 years. The design of the Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. The obverse, or the front of the coin, features the iconic bust of Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, and the reverse at the time showed 2 wheat stalks, which gave these early cents the nickname Wheat Pennies. Now, by 1955, the wheat reverse was still in use. It would not be replaced until 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial design. But what makes 1955 so special is not just that it was a year of production, but that it produced one of the most famous error coins in history, the 1955 double die obverse penny. Let's break this down. A double die error happens during the hubbing process when the coin die receives 2 impressions that are not perfectly aligned. The result is that all the coins struck from that die show letters and numbers that look doubled. In the case of the 1955 Lincoln cent, this doubling was extremely bold. You can clearly see doubling on the date, especially the number 5, and on the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust. This dramatic error is so obvious that even someone who has never collected coins before can notice it immediately. Back in 1955, the Philadelphia Mint was producing these cents, and when the double die obverse error was discovered, thousands of coins had already been released into circulation. The estimate is that between 24,000 examples made it into the public hands before the mistake was corrected. People found them in their pocket change and cigarette packs because pennies were sometimes used as fillers in packaging and in everyday transactions. Almost overnight, the coin became famous among collectors. The regular 1955 penny without the error is still a collectible wheat cent, but the double die variety is the real treasure. These coins quickly gained a reputation and even appeared in coin magazines during the late 1950s and 1960s. They became a must-have for serious collectors, and their value skyrocketed. So, how much is a 1955 double die penny worth today? That depends on condition. Like all coins, collectors use a grading scale that ranges from good to mint state. If you find a heavily circulated 1955 double die penny, it could still sell for several $100s, even with heavy, where a mid-grade example in fine or very fine condition can easily reach into the thousands of dollars. When you move into higher grades like extremely fine or about uncirculated, you are talking about values ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. But here is where it gets truly exciting. Uncirculated examples that were saved early on before much work could happen are some of the most desirable coins in all of the United States. Coin collecting a mint state 1955 double die penny can bring anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000 depending on how sharp the strike is and how clean the surfaces are. The record auction sales for the finest examples graded by services like PCGS and NGC have surpassed $100,000. Is not just the error variety that carries value, though. Even a regular 1955 wheat cent can be worth more than face value. Collectors often pay between 20 cents and several dollars for nice examples, especially if they are in uncirculated red condition. The wheat reverse series has a strong following, and coins from the 1950s are still widely collected as part of complete sets. Now, you may be wondering, how can I tell if I have a Genuine 1955 double die penny. The key is the strength of the doubling. It is not light or minor like some other double die coins. It is strong, bold, and dramatic. If you see slight doubling, it might actually be a poor quality strike, or what collectors call mechanical doubling, which is worth far less. The genuine 1955 double die will show very thick doubled letters on Liberty and on the motto, "In God We Trust." If you are unsure, it is always wise to have the coin authenticated by a trusted grading service. Today, the 1955 double die penny continues to capture the imagination of collectors. It is often the coin that draws people into the hobby because the story of finding a simple penny and change that could be worth thousands feels almost magical. And even though most of the known examples are already in the hands of collectors, new discoveries still happen once in a while when someone checks an old jar of wheat cents or searches through inherited coins. So what is the current market outlook as of today? Demand remains extremely high. The coin has held strong for decades because of its iconic status in the hobby. Unlike many modern era coins that fade in popularity, the 1955 double die is considered a classic. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents almost always strive to own one, and auction houses continue to report strong bidding whenever one comes up for sale, whether it is a lower grade example selling for a few hundred or a gem mint state example fetching tens of thousands. This coin remains one of the great prizes of American numismatics. To summarize, the 1955 Lincoln penny is more than just a 1-cent coin. It represents history, craftsmanship, error, and rarity all rolled into one small piece of copper. For collectors, it is a bucket list item. For beginners, it is a dream find. And for the market, it remains one of the most stable and valuable coins ever struck by the United States Mint. So if you come across an old wheat penny jar or find a 1955 cent tucked away in a collection, make sure to look closely because that tiny coin could be worth a fortune. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed learning about the 1955 Lincoln penny and its incredible story, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments if you would like me to cover more legendary coins in future episodes. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most collected coins in American history, the 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny. This coin may look small, but it carries a big history and in some cases a surprising amount of value. By the end of this video, you will know why collectors love this coin, what makes some examples worth only a cent while others sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars, and what the current market value is today. So let's get started. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was designed by Victor David Brenner, and it became the first regular issue United States coin to feature the portrait of a real person. From 1909 until 1958, the reverse carried the wheat ears design. So coins from this era are often called Lincoln wheat pennies or wheat cents. Now let us focus on the year 1956. This year is part of the later period of wheat cent production, just 2 years before the memorial reverse design replaced the wheat ears. In 1956, there were 2 major mint locations producing pennies: the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. If your coin has no mint mark, it was struck in Philadelphia. If it carries a small letter D below the date, it was struck in Denver. The mintage numbers were quite large. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 420 million pennies in 1956. The Denver Mint produced even more, over 1 billion pennies that year. Because of these high mintages, most 1956 pennies in circulated condition are very common. You can still find them in change and coin rolls today, but common does not mean worthless. Even circulated 1956 pennies often carry a small premium for collectors who want to build a complete wheat cent set. Typically, in average circulated condition, they are worth between 2 and 5 cents. Uncirculated examples, however, can be worth far more. When we look at uncirculated coins, also called mint state coins, condition is everything. The grading scale runs from 1 up to 70, and collectors chase the highest possible grades. A 1956 penny in mint state 60 is worth maybe 50 cents to $1. A mint state 65 red example, which means the coin still shows its full red copper color, can sell for $15 to $20. When you get into the very top population coins, mint state 67 red or better, auction prices can reach several $100s or even more. Now here is where it gets even more exciting. Error coins and varieties. The 1956 Lincoln cent has some famous double die examples. On some coins, the date and lettering appear doubled. These are rare and highly collectible. Depending on condition and strength of the doubling, such coins can sell for anywhere from $50 to over $1,000. Another type of error collectors look for is off-center strikes. These are coins that were not struck correctly on the press, leaving part of the design missing. A small off-center of maybe 10% might bring $10 to $20, while dramatic off-centers of 50% or more can sell for $100 or higher. There are also repunched mint marks. On some 1956 Denver pennies, the mint mark D was punched more than once, leaving traces of doubling. These varieties can bring premiums ranging from a few dollars to several dozen dollars, depending on grade and visibility. That if you have a proof coin for 1956, that is another category. Proof pennies were struck in Philadelphia with special polished dies for collectors. About 660,000 were made that year. Proof coins usually show mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. A proof 1956 penny in average proof condition might be worth $3 to $5, while a perfect proof 67 red can be worth $50 or more. What is the current market telling us in 2025? For common circulated 1956 pennies, the value is still only a few cents. For bright, uncirculated examples, prices range from $1 to $20 depending on grade. Certified top population coins in mint state 67 red or higher are in strong demand and can reach several $100s. Error coins like double dies and off-centers remain highly desirable and continue to sell for hundreds or even thousands when the right buyer finds them. Proof coins are steadily collected, and nice red examples continue to bring strong premiums. The bottom line is this. The 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny is common in lower grades, but rare in the highest grades and in error varieties. If you have a jar of old wheat pennies, it is definitely worth taking a close look at the 1956 coins. With a little luck, you could discover a valuable treasure. That wraps up today's video on the 1956 Lincoln Penny. We covered its history, mintages, common values, proof issues, errors, and the current market. If you enjoyed learning about this coin and want to see more deep dives into coin history and value, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and happy collecting. Today we are diving deep into the story of the 1957 D Lincoln Penny, one of the most talked about wheat cents among collectors and coin enthusiasts. This little copper coin might look like just another old penny from your change jar, but it carries a fascinating history. And in certain cases, it can be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. Let's start with the background. The Lincoln Cent series began in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, designed by Victor David Brenner. The wheat reverse penny ran until 1958, when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. The 1957 D penny comes right near the very end of that wheat cent era, struck at the Denver Mint with the D Mint mark on the obverse side below the date. In 1957, the Denver Mint produced a massive number of these coins, more than 1 billion pieces in total, so most examples today are extremely common, especially in circulated grades, which means worn pennies that have been used in everyday transactions. If you find one in pocket change, it usually has little premium and might be worth just a few cents. However, the story does not end there, because condition rarity and special errors can turn an ordinary 1957 D penny into a valuable coin. Collectors place great importance on condition. Grading ranges from poor all the way up to mint state 70. The higher the grade, the sharper the details, and the more original mint luster is preserved. If you have a 1957 D penny in average circulated condition, it might be worth between 3 and 5 cents. If it is uncirculated with strong luster, values can jump much higher. For example, in MS65 red, which means a gem mint state with bright red copper color, these can sell for $10 to $15 in today's market. If you go even higher into MS66 or MS67 red, then the price can move into the hundreds. Now, let's talk about varieties and errors, which is where the big money often comes in. Certain 1957 D pennies show double dies where parts of the lettering or numbers appear doubled under magnification. There are also repunched mint marks, where the demint mark was punched into the die more than once, creating a shadow effect. Another category is off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the coin. Collectors love these dramatic errors, and depending on the percentage of the off-center strike, values can soar into the hundreds of dollars. One of the most famous sales involved a top-grade 1957 D penny that was graded MS67 red by PCGS. It sold at auction for over $4,000. That is right, a 1-cent coin turned into thousands of dollars just because it was preserved in nearly flawless condition with blazing red color. This shows how condition, rarity, and collector demand all work together in determining value. When we think about the market today, most circulated 1957 D pennies are still very common, but high-grade certified examples remain in demand. Collectors always want to complete their wheat cent sets, and the late 1950s issues are popular because they represent the final years of the design. So, while the average penny might not be rare, there is still steady interest from hobbyists, which keeps prices strong for top-quality coins. If you're wondering what to look for when searching your own pennies, here are a few tips. First, always check for the mint mark on the front side under the date. If it has a D, you know it was struck in Denver. Next, examine the coin undergood lighting. Look for sharp details, no scratches, and bright red color, because original copper tone means higher grade. Then use a magnifier to check for doubling in the letters Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date. Finally, consider the overall eye appeal, because collectors will always pay more for a coin that simply looks beautiful. To sum it all up, the 1957 D Lincoln penny is a coin with a rich history. It marks the end of the wheat cent era. It was produced in huge numbers, but still holds hidden treasures in high grades and error varieties. While most examples are worth only a few cents, the best ones can bring hundreds, and in rare cases, even thousands of dollars. So never overlook those old wheat pennies in your change jar. You just might be holding a small piece of American history worth a lot more than face value. Today, we are diving deep into one of the seemingly ordinary coins that hides more than meets the eye: the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny. You may have one sitting in your collection or even in a drawer somewhere, and you might be surprised by what that little copper cent can tell us about American numismatics, minting history, and surprising market values today. Let's begin by going back in time to the origin and design of the Lincoln Cent series, and why the 1957 issue is part of a long-running legacy. The Lincoln Cent was first introduced in 1909, commemorating the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Its designer was Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB originally appeared on the reverse, but caused some controversy and were later reduced in prominence. Over the years, the design evolved slightly, but one constant remained: the portrait of Lincoln on the obverse, replacing the earlier Lady Liberty imagery. On the reverse, from 1909 through 1958, the so-called wheat ears reverse design was used, two stylized wheat stalks flanking 1 cent and United States of America. Because of that reverse design, collectors often call these wheat pennies. By 1957, the Lincoln Wheat Penny was well established. The United States Mint produced coins at multiple facilities: the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark; the Denver Mint, mint mark D; and occasionally San Francisco, though for cents in that era San Francisco was less used. The 1957 issue is fairly common in terms of mintage, especially in circulated grades, but that does not mean there aren't valuable examples. The composition of the 1957 cent is typical for wheat pennies of that era: about 95% copper, with the remainder being tin and zinc. The coin weighs approximately 3.11 grams, with a diameter of 19 millimeters. The edge is plain, that is, smooth. These are modest specifications, but what gives them value is condition, rarity, errors, and collector demand. Now, let us move to how to assess the value of a 1957 Lincoln penny, especially in normal and premium cases. First, for coins in circulated condition, that is, coins that have seen everyday use, most 1957 pennies are worth very little above face value. Many reference sources and coin value guides list typical values between around 5 cents to 35 cents. For instance, one numismatic source states that a 1957 wheat penny in circulated condition often sells between 5 cents and 35 cents. Another guide, USA Coin Book, lists average condition value around 6 cents for a 1957 or a 1957D cent as the condition improves, moving into fine, very fine, extra fine, and uncirculated grades. The value increases. In uncirculated, mint state condition, specimens can command several dollars or more depending on their red or red-brown coloration, eye appeal, and strike quality. For example, one guide lists that an uncirculated 1957 or 1957 D wheat penny might be worth from about 36 cents to $1.23 or more in high uncirculated grades. Another source notes that an average uncirculated 1957 D in MS 63 condition could fetch about 75 cents. But those are more baseline uncirculated values. Where things get really exciting is when you consider rare errors, premium grading, proof coins, or exceptional specimens. One notable example: the 1957 D Lincoln cent in very high grades. According to PCGS Professional Coin Grading Service data, a 1957 D regular strike, red, coin in MS 67 plus RD condition has an auction record of $6,600, sold in May 2019. That is a massive leap from the few cents range for circulated ones. That tells us, if your 1957 penny is expertly preserved, it could be worth hundreds or even thousands. Proof versions of the 1957 cent also exist, though proof cents in that era are rarer and not widely seen in circulation. According to the Graysheet catalog, proof 1957 wheat reverse cents have value ranges depending on finish. For example, a PRRD DCM version can range from $295 up to $11,500, depending on grade and demand. Then there are rare error or variety coins. One intriguing variety sometimes offered is a no mint mark or an error on the rim, or L in Liberty anomaly. For instance, listings on auction sites show rare error specimens of the 1957 wheat penny, no mint mark, or unusual lettering or rim errors, offered for hundreds or even upward of $1,000. Of course, these are exceptional cases and must be certified to confirm authenticity. So what is the current market value of a 1957 Lincoln penny? It depends entirely on condition, rarity, and certification. In 2025, listings from coin price guides and marketplaces show ungraded or lower grade 1957 pennies commonly selling for a few dollars or less. For example, one price charting site shows ungraded 1957 wheat pennies going for close to $1.99 in decent condition. In higher grades, MS64, MS65, and up, values can reach $10 to $20 or more. Some top red examples in MS66 or MS67 condition can command $30 to $100 plus or more, depending on collector demand and rarity. It's worth emphasizing, most 1957 pennies will not be worth a fortune. Unless yours is a superb red uncirculated or a verified error, it's likely worth modestly above face, perhaps $1 or $2. But if you do own a high-quality specimen or a rare variant, it could fetch hundreds or even more in the right market. Now let's walk through how you or a collector should evaluate a 1957 Lincoln penny. First, check the mint mark. If there is a D under the date, it's from the Denver Mint. If there is no mint mark, it's from Philadelphia. Rarely there might be other anomalies, but those two are usual. The mint mark affects scarcity, though in this year both are common. Second, examine the condition/grade. Are the features, the hair, face, inscriptions, sharp and crisp, or are they worn? Look at high points such as Lincoln's cheek and jaw, or the wheat ears on the reverse. If details are flattened or worn, the coin is likely circulated and has lower value. Third, check for the centering, strike quality, color, a surface condition. A well-struck, well-centered coin with vivid red color, meaning original copper luster, command a premium. Scratches, cleaning marks, or corrosion damage can drastically reduce value. Fourth, watch for errors or varieties, double dies, repunched mint marks, rim anomalies, struck through foreign matter, etc. If you spot something unusual, consider having the coin professionally graded and authenticated. Fifth, use comparables and auction records. Checking recent auction sales of similarly graded coins helps you estimate what your coin might fetch. For example, that MS 671957 D red sold for $6,600 is a real data point that, if you want to sell or certify your coin, sending it to a reputable grading service like PCGS, NGC, or Annex can increase buyer confidence and often increase the realized price. But grading itself carries costs and risks, so that decision should be weighed carefully. Now, to wrap up, let's summarize the takeaways about the 1957 Lincoln Wheat Penny. It is a common date in the Lincoln Wheat Cent series, but that doesn't mean it's worthless. Most circulated examples are modestly valued, cents to a few dollars. Uncirculated specimens, especially in strong red or gem condition, hold significantly more value. Exceptional grading or error variance can push the value much higher, even into the thousands. To determine value, you need to evaluate mint mark, condition, color, strike, and possible error features. Always consult up-to-date auction results and coin guides when estimating current market value, because coin markets fluctuate. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the 1957 Lincoln Penny. If you own one, you now have some tools to assess whether it's a plain cent or hidden gem. If you like this video, do like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want me to cover other years, other pennies, or rare mint errors. Until next time, happy coin hunting!